kind of introducing yourself, your name, your organization, your title, and kind of what just happened here today, what we're here for.
Okay, my name is Carole McWilson, and I'm the co-founder of the Family Empowerment Student Achievement Institute. Co-founded the organization with my husband Gemma when we arrived here, which was about 2006 or 7. And we are here today specifically to address the issue or dispel the myth that children who live in poverty are not capable of achievement, and clearly we've demonstrated that they can.
And you guys kind of, what did you do? You combed through report cards to find out who
I'm sorry?
How did you find these? You combed through report cards to see who was succeeding?
These people?
Yes.
Okay. My husband, Gemma, actually reviewed the status and state report cards of all of the school districts in the state of Ohio. And he's been doing this type of research for quite some time. So during that process, this time he was looking for schools that were succeeding, that were 100% poverty classified. So that's how he identified the schools in Akron and today in Steubenville. And then the last segment of this series we did, he identified obviously Youngstown State University and Cleveland Early College.
And why is this so important? Why bother? Why do all of this?
Why bother? Because way too many of our students do not receive the level of education to which they are entitled and which they need to function as productive citizens in our communities. And this has been going on for so long, particularly here in Youngstown, that we have a population in the city that is uneducated. And we can't look to the parents or blame the parents for what's going on with the children and not knowing how to help their children, because they are a product of the same system that their children are now in. So that's the reason that he keeps going and that we keep trying to address this and to come up with a way that we can actually demand performance from Youngstown City Schools.
It also seems like, what's that saying? You keep doing the same thing, you get the same results. Like, it's
right.
Kind of the definition of insanity. Like, you expect things to change, but you're doing the same thing. So is this kind of like, here's a model, here's where it's working, let's look at that?
Right. I mean, we knew before we did this work that there were schools in the country, in Chicago, in Texas, in LA, and in New York. We know that there are schools that are working for children of color specifically, where they have 100% graduation rates and 100% of students going on to college. But it's been very difficult, for whatever reason, to get people to say, okay, fine, let's go talk to those people. Let's go explore their resources, see what they're doing. It just hasn't happened. And now we have examples of that very same thing right here in Ohio. So there really is no excuse. You know what? You either have a reason or an excuse. You can't have both. Well, now there's a real reason to reach outside Youngstown and to look at some of these other schools that are absolutely performing.
Anything you want to add? Anything we didn't touch on that's important about today or the issue?
I can't think of anything that would be terribly profound. I'd have to.
Okay.
One final thing I'd like to say is a word that nobody wants to raise, and that word is racism. Racism is at the core of all of this. Not just here in Youngstown, but in the whole educational system throughout the United States. Black children are at the bottom in every city that you would look at, and the reason is racism. There.
Okay. So I'm going to have you start by just kind of introducing yourself, your organization, your title, and kind of tell me about the conference today, what it was about, kind of what you got out of it.
Right. So my name is Tom Roberts. I'm the state president of the NAACP from Dayton, Ohio. This conference to me was kind of the tipping point of a 2 or 3 year dialogue that the Academic Distress Commission has been having across the state, and especially here in Youngstown, to to try to address the issues of why our schools are failing and what we can do as an Ohio conference to address those issues. We all want high academic standards, high performing academic standards, and to have this kind of dialogue to give us some sense of direction, some goals we need to follow is absolutely imperative for me and for the Ohio Conference, for the branches in the state of Ohio.
So, I mean, I think we've heard the excuse, you know, it's 100% free and reduced lunch. There's a lot of poverty. They don't have the basics. You can't succeed. But then you hear from schools that are doing it in very similar environments. So talk a little bit about that.
So we have all kinds of barriers, you know, school funding, textbooks, poverty. All these things plague public education. One of the things that was dismissed today was that poverty is the major issue. And I think we can conclude after this conversation today hearing from Steubenville that race trumps poverty. Race is a big issue in public education, so we can work around the poverty issues, and we need to put that one to bed, but to continue to work on the disparities in public education in Ohio and what we need to be doing as a civil rights organization to address those disparities.
When you hear that Steubenville is actually spending less per student than Youngstown and getting basically 180-degree results, total opposites, what do you make of that?
Well, I have mixed feelings. Being a a former and reformed legislator, we always look at how you can do more with less. But that's probably sending the wrong message, because schools are not getting enough funding. We are still relying on an old formula of the property taxes as the way to pay public education. So it just says to me, Steubenville knows how to efficiently use the public dollars it receives. It doesn't say any more or less, but it does say to other school districts, maybe if you set priorities, you work on a long-range plan, you can do more with less. That doesn't mean give them less. That means you can do more with less. And maybe that's the answer.
What are you hoping the next step will be that will come out of something like this?
Well, I'm waiting for as Jim pointed out, they're putting together a template. And from there, he's going to take it to the national. I'll take it to the national board to look at. And we're going to use this in Ohio. We're going to have a major statewide summit sometime in the spring, hopefully by the end of May, to just talk about it from a urban school district, but also from a civil rights point of view, what public education means to us in the state of Ohio, and what we need to be doing as local units and branches to promote public education, to be there for those teachers, be there for those parents, but as my colleague, former State Senator C.J. Prince would say, for those babies. We have to be about the babies. It's not about unions, it's not about principals, it's about what we're doing to those babies in the classroom. And when we fail them, we're failing this in the next generation of children and citizens. And that's what we need to be working on.
If we back up, you said you can set poverty aside because we see with Steubenville, you said it's race. So is Steubenville's makeup different than Youngstown's makeup? I
don't know the answer to that, but where you have people of color, you're going to have race. And even if, because that is part of the American dynamics, that's what we keep learning this week as we talk about the dream and his dream. Race does still play a major issue in how things are distributed and how education, how institutions exist in America. So we should never let that issue go away. We should never let that issue go beyond our thought process. We want to go away, but we should never let it stay out of our minds.
Anything you want to add? Anything we didn't touch on?
I think this has been a great conference, and as I said to the delegates, this has been a 5-year journey for Chima and Mrs. Moore, and I want to commend them for the work they've done, because it's raised the bar for us as a civil rights organization in the state of Ohio. So I'm looking forward to continue to work on this project nationwide and statewide.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to state my name or something?
Yeah, hang on one second. go ahead and say your name and spell it for me.
Rebecca Banks, REBECCA-BANKS.
And are you within an organization or kind of what?
A little bit of everything. I'm a radio show host on Rookery Radio, Love and Music. I'm a former tutor at YSU, and I'm very involved in the schools, mentor, community.
Do you live in Youngstown?
I do. I live right up the hill from this building.
Great. Well, did you have something specific you wanted to say?
Just a general comment.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I really I'm so enthused. I enjoyed this conference, this forum. I had notated it in my planner. I evidently read it probably on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, I saw it last night. I'm like, I wasn't sure at the time, but I had Eastern Gateway, so I was very excited. But I am so happy that I came here. I want to thank everybody that put this forum on for having it. Students are very, very dear to my heart. I worked with students while I was completing my bachelor's at YSU. I got my degree in 2015, but I've worked with wonderful students, and I just love anything that teaches all of us how to help the student. I really love what Mr. Gorman said in their school, students are first, then the school. Because it is, no two students are the same. And we need to look at different ways, we need to collaborate. I love the fact that it was done in the sense of empowering all of us so that we can help our babies, you know, as was brought out, and from a young age. And it brought out, I like how it brought out some of the things students have to face. We can't ignore that. When 2:30, 3 o'clock comes, they have to go back to whatever environment or situations they're in. So we need to factor that into their total education. And I like that view of looking at the whole person, you know. So I just really want to thank everybody for having this conference. I'm enthused. I took a lot of good notes. I know some things now. I made some contacts, some networks. I even going back to when they were speaking about these, I forget the exact title they called it, but what they've been holding where they invite the parents to come in and get the children's medal. I was one of those parents, and I shared with Mr. McWilson, my son Bruce passed away. And so that's very near and dear to me that he got one. And I think there's one, I think my other son earned one, but for some reason he wasn't there. So I'm happy because I'm gonna see if I can pick it up, because that means a lot to me, you know. And I see at these conferences, I like the way they brought out, they started it to show that parents in Youngstown do care about education, do celebrate it. And I wish the viewer could be with us at one of these, because the kids are dressed up in their dresses, suits, ties, vests, you know, hair done, maybe nail polish, but it's a very joyful experience. It's not this solemn thing like, you know, like maybe some graduations are. It's very joyful. So I just love that I came today. 2020 is exciting to me, and I just feel very empowered that I have more tools and skills now and knowledge of who to contact to help me keep making a difference in my city. So thank you.
Awesome.